You walked in the front door at 6:30. You said hello to the people you love. You took off your shoes. And then, almost before your keys hit the counter, you felt something unmistakable. A deep body level pull to be alone. Not because you do not love the people in the house, not because the day was bad, but because something inside you is asking, quietly but clearly, for no more input. There is an entire population of adults who experience this every weeknight and who often feel guilty about it. According to the research on stress and recovery, they should not. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear is not introversion. It is something more specific and more universal than that. Let us start with what is actually happening inside your body at the end of a workday. Your nervous system has a budget. For the entire workday, it has been running a background program, regulating your tone of voice, your facial expression, your level of alertness, your performance of interest in meetings you did not choose to attend. Neuroscientists have a term for the cumulative cost of all this. They call it allostatic load. The concept comes from Bruce McEwen, a Rockefeller University neuroscientist whose work across the 90s and 2000s, published in journals including the New England Journal of Medicine and the Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences, fundamentally shaped how the field understands chronic stress. Allostatic load is not the cost of bad things happening. It is the cost of being adaptive, of managing yourself, hour after hour, in a context that asks for a particular performance of competence. By the end of a workday, that budget is spent. The silence you crave at 6:30 is not avoidance. It is the bill arriving. Translation, you are not being antisocial. You are paying back your nervous system. But here is where it gets interesting, because what you actually need in that window is extremely specific. You know that feeling when you finish a call and the smile drops off your face before you have even ended the call? That is emotional labor, leaking. In 1983, the sociologist Arlie Hochschild published The Managed Heart, a book that introduced the concept of emotional labor. The effort, usually invisible, of producing the correct feelings on the outside regardless of what you are feeling on the inside. Her central insight. That labor is work. It costs something. Later, the organizational psychologist Alicia Grande, in a 2000 paper in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology, split the concept into two kinds: surface acting, performing a feeling you do not have, and deep acting, trying to actually generate the feeling. Surface acting is the more draining of the two, and it accumulates across a day. By evening, you are not just tired from your tasks, you are tired from having been visible, on brand, appropriately expressive, for 8 straight hours. Notice the pattern. When people say they need alone time after work, what they actually need is a period where no one is watching their face. That is a very specific, very small, very necessary thing. And a house full of people, even people you love, is not designed to provide it. Now, where it might get a little uncomfortable because it is more personal than most people want to admit. A significant portion of the people who crave this decompression window are not avoiding their loved ones. They are trying to protect their loved ones from a version of themselves they know is not their best. While the rest of the household is ready to reconnect, these people are still quietly in their work body. Heart rate elevated, face slightly braced, internal monologue still negotiating something that happened at 3 in the afternoon. If they try to engage before that has unwound, they snap at things they would not normally snap at. They miss emotional cues. They half listen. The present moment enters briefly, and then the residue of the workday bulldozes right over it. Research by the organizational psychologist Sabine Sonnentag and her colleagues, published in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology, has shown that this transition window is real and measurable. If that is you, here is the reframe. You do not have a loved one's problem. You have a re-entry problem. Those are very different things. You are not being cold. You are buying the room a better version of yourself. And let us talk about where this actually comes from, because it is bigger than any one tired adult. You can see exactly where it comes from. 100 years ago, work and home were not the same shape. People worked, they walked home, they did something with their hands in the yard, they ate at a slower table. The transition between performing for the world and being yourself with the people you love was built into the rhythm of the day. Then commutes shrank. Then remote work arrived. Then work followed you into the kitchen in the form of notifications, and the transition window quietly disappeared. Research on what psychologists call psychological detachment. Again, building on Sonnentag's work in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology and current directions in psychological science, has shown that this window is not a luxury. People who cannot psychologically detach from work in the evening report poorer sleep, more burnout, and lower relationship satisfaction over time. The craving for solitude after work is not a preference. It is the nervous system trying to manufacture a buffer that the modern day no longer provides. The work did not just follow you home, the recovery is what went missing. And remote work, for all its real benefits, often makes this worse, not better, because when your work self and your home self occupy the same chair, in the same room, in the same body, all day, there is no physical signal to your nervous system that the performance is over. The office at least had a door, a drive, a change of lighting. Now the boundary is only internal, and internal boundaries are the hardest kind to hold when you are tired. And there is a specific version of this that deserves its own name because the research on it has been overlooked for decades. For a significant portion of adults, especially parents and especially mothers, the decompression window does not actually exist. Work ends at 5, and a second shift begins at 5:01. Dinner needs to be made. A child needs help with homework. The house that was already not clean needs to be at least partially restored. In 1989, the sociologist Arlie Hochschild, the same researcher who gave us emotional labor, published a book called The Second Shift, documenting this pattern in detail. Her central finding: the second shift of domestic and caregiving labor is not a supplement to the paid workday. It is a full, separate shift, often performed by exhausted people with no recovery window between the two. For the adults inside this pattern, the craving for solitude does not go away. It simply becomes impossible to meet, which creates something psychologists sometimes call compassion resentment. A quiet, guilt-laced irritation toward the very people you love, because they are unknowingly, through no fault of their own, standing between you and the minutes of aloneness you need to be a functioning person. Research on parental burnout, published across journals including Clinical Psychological Science, has documented exactly this dynamic, not love collapsing, recovery collapsing. If this is you, the reframe is not that you love your family less than you thought. It is that you have been asked to run 2 8-hour shifts in a 12-hour window for a long time. The solution is not more discipline. The solution is a genuine off shift, even if it has to be negotiated in minutes rather than hours. There is a weird paradox at the core of this experience. The people who most crave alone time after work are often the most socially engaged people during it. They are the colleagues who ask how your weekend was, who notice you look tired, who carry the emotional temperature of the room. All day. That is not extroversion, that is performance. And performance sustained for hours costs. This is not a flaw in the mind. It is just a particular architecture. One that is, frankly, better suited to giving in small protected doses than to giving constantly, to deep recovery than to shallow socializing, to a quiet hour than to a full evening. So, what does all this actually mean? If you come home and quietly need 40 minutes alone before you can be a real person again, you are not cold. You are not a bad partner. You are not a bad friend. You are a nervous system paying back a bill the modern workday quietly ran up in your name. The people who love you will get the better version of you on the other side. The next time you close the bathroom door at 6:35 and just breathe, remember, you are not avoiding anyone. You are refueling for them. The solitude was never the end of connection. It was a condition for it. If this resonated with you, please subscribe. And if you want to support these deep dives, consider hitting that join button to become a channel member. I would genuinely appreciate it.